Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Asaf Weiss, and I serve as the Vice President of the American Jewish Congress. It is my honor to moderate today's webinar in partnership with the World Zionist Organization. Today, we are truly privileged to host the United States Ambassador to Israel, Ambassador Mike Huckabee. But first, as always, let me first begin with a call for the immediate release of the 50 Israeli hostages who remain in the murderous hands of Hamas. Their suffering is a moral stain on humanity, and we will not rest until they are brought home. We will have time for questions at the end of the session, so please submit them in the chat. You can do it right now. You have a Q&A box that you can write your questions, and we will be able to ask the ambassador after his session. Before we begin, I encourage you all to follow us on social media and to sign up for our mailing list. Links are in the email that you've received. Now, I would like to introduce our distinguished leaders who make today's event possible. First, it is my pleasure to introduce Daniel Rosen, President of the American Jewish Congress. Daniel has led our organization through complex challenges and extended our global engagement. He is a leading voice for Israel and the Jewish people, both in Washington and around the world. Daniel, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Asaf, and hello, everyone, and welcome. We're grateful to all of you who are joining us today. These online gatherings are a part of an effort to keep the American public informed about key developments in Israel and the United States, and to provide direct access to senior officials and leading voices at this critical moment. We are especially honored today to host the United States Ambassador to Israel, Governor Mike Huckabee. Ambassador Huckabee is a remarkable leader with a distinguished career, including his service as the governor of Arkansas. We are grateful to him for accepting this important role at such a challenging time. The American Jewish Congress strongly supported Ambassador Huckabee's nomination, advocating both publicly and in the Senate for his confirmation. Since his arrival in Israel, Ambassador Huckabee has represented the American administration with dignity, standing firmly with Israel and its people. Ambassador Huckabee, thank you for being with us today.
Daniel, it is such a pleasure, and I want to thank you and the World Jewish Congress for giving me the opportunity to be with you.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'm going to give Tova just a second to give her opening remarks, and then we can start.
All right, I'm going to be...
That's a proof to everyone that we're live. Sorry, Ambassador, for that.
That's all right.
Thank you. Tova, I'm handing it over to you.
Thanks.
Tova Tofman is the president of the World Zionist Organization, and we're very honored to have you with us.
So I'm going to be very brief because I know we have limited time, but I do want to say thank you to the ambassador for his voice and his insights. They matter really deeply at this time, and we look forward to hearing from him not only about the possible paths to ending this war, but above all about the urgent mission of bringing back our hostages. So I want to thank you again on behalf of the World Zionist Organization, and then we can begin to hear you speak.
Thank you, Tova. Now, it is my privilege to introduce our keynote speaker, Ambassador Mike Huckabee, the United States Ambassador to Israel. Ambassador Huckabee is the former governor of Arkansas, presidential candidate, and a nationally recognized leader who has been a big supporter of Israel and the Jewish people for decades. Ambassador Huckabee, thank you so much for joining us.
Asaf, thank you so much. And I apologize, Tova, for stepping on your tongue just as you were getting started. My apologies. But to be with you and Daniel and all of the people joining tonight on the call, thank you very much for giving me the privilege. It's a little after 7 p.m. here in Jerusalem, and I'm so proud, so grateful to God and to President Trump for letting me be in this incredible position and place at a moment of time in history that is just remarkable. I didn't want a federal job, to be honest with you. I wasn't looking for something to do. I was busier than I'd ever been in my life, enjoying life in the private sector. Then a few days after the election, President Trump called. He didn't ask me to come. President Trump doesn't ask anyone. He tells you what you're going to do. And he did. He called me and told me that I'm going to be the ambassador to Israel. To be honest, it is the only thing he would have ever asked me to do that I would have said yes to, but I couldn't say no. For me, it was an Isaiah moment. Here am I, Lord, send me. And I believe he has. I want to say thanks to all of the Jewish community, both in the United States and here in Israel. I was a little concerned that when the president named me, there might be some pushback that I wasn't Jewish. Maybe I wasn't qualified to be the ambassador to Israel. It's been the opposite reaction that I had expected. The support has been overwhelming, incredibly gratifying, and I cannot even begin to express how much it means to me to be able to serve in this capacity. And when people ask me, but you're a Christian, you're not even Jewish, why are you so supportive of the Jewish people in general and the state of Israel? And I say, well, it's pretty simple. You can be Jewish and have nothing to do with Christians. I can't be a Christian without owing everything in my faith to the foundation upon which it rests, and that's Judaism. I have a deep respect and a deep belief in the Bible. So for me, this gets pretty simple. When I read the Bible, I understand something. God chose the Jewish people. Those are the people that he chose. He chose a place. He gave Israel and its boundaries to the people he chose, and then he gave them a purpose. And that purpose was to be those through whom he would reveal his light, his love, his purpose for the world, and of course, his law. So for me, it's a matter of I owe a debt of obligation. I am deeply indebted to my Jewish friends, without whom my own faith doesn't even exist. So I want you to know that I come to this position with a real sense of obligation and duty. And sometimes people tell me that I say things that maybe a Jewish ambassador would be afraid to say. Maybe someday I'll be afraid to say some things, but right now I feel like that it's time to be bold. I've been accused even of being almost Israel's ambassador to the U.S. They say, you defend Israel so much. And I say, well, let me explain this. I am the ambassador from the United States to Israel. It's my job to represent my nation, my president, to the land of Israel. But Israel is not just a friend or an ally. We have a lot of friends, a lot of allies in the world, but America only has one real partner. That's Israel. And by being our partner, we have a relationship that is unique, and it is also a relationship of great depth. And sure, we share military hardware and software, and we share intelligence at a level that most people would be shocked to know. It's virtually seamless in terms of our cooperation. But the reason that we are a partner with Israel is deeper than that. It's because we really share the same spiritual and heritage of values. We both are based on the understanding that God created the world and put us in it, that he gives us purpose, and that our value as human beings is individual. It's not corporate, it's not collective, it's individual. That's something that we share that is unique in all the world. And as more and more countries abandon the tenets of Western civilization, it's even more important to recognize this incredible bond. So having said that, when I get accused sometimes by the Israeli press or even American press, you sure are supportive of Israel. You seem to always be defending them. Well, when I think they need it, I certainly do. But here's why. As I said, Israel is our partner. By that, we have that unique relationship. My wife and I have been married 51 years. It's a partnership. And if you were to come to my home and I invited you to dinner and you walked in and you said, Mike, we like you. We really think the world of you, but we sure don't like your wife. We can't stand her. Well, the first thing I do is throw you out of my house. I would not be complimented that you claim to like me, but not my spouse. I would be highly offended that you said something negative about my partner for the simple reason that doing so is not just insulting her, you have insulted me by insulting my choice of a partner. So I tell people if I'm defensive of Israel, if I stand up for Israel, It's because it's simple. It's part of my job. I'm standing up for the partner that America has chosen for its partner. And I'm not going to let people say lies and horrible things about the partner because they're saying something negative about the choice that America has made. A couple of things before I turn it over for some questions, because I know that maybe that'll be more important than anything else we do tonight. My love of Israel started in 1973 when I made my first pilgrimage here. I was 17. It was between my high school graduation and my freshman year of college. 1973, just before the Yom Kippur War, July of that year. I came to this region. Israel, quite frankly, was a sleepy little country then. It was not the startup nation that we know it to be today, not as technologically advanced, and certainly a long way from what we see. For the past 52 years, I've made over 100 trips here. In 1981, I started bringing Americans to experience Israel. And through the years, I brought tens of thousands of Americans to Israel. I've been often asked, don't you get tired of going there? I say, no. Every time I get on the plane to come home, I'm already trying to figure out when am I going to get back. After my wife and I had been here for a few weeks, we talked about that we've been here so many times. Usually we'd come 2 weeks, we'd go home, we'd be over here 2 weeks, we'd go home. And we looked at each other, we said, we've been here 4 weeks. This time we didn't come 2 weeks and go home. This time we came and we are home. And that's how it feels. I love being here. It's an extraordinary place to serve. And I believe God has his hand on Israel. I really do. It's a land of miracles. I see them every day. And I'm grateful for the privilege of just visiting with you, answering questions you have. I'll turn it over to Asaf or Daniel, whoever's going to lead the Q&A, and look forward to the challenges that you present to me tonight.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Hearing you speak is just inspiring, and we're so grateful to have you here in Israel representing the United States government. We have a lot of questions from the audience. I'm going to start with a couple of them. I just want to remind everyone you can write your questions, and we'll ask the ambassador. I'm going to gather a couple of questions. Forgive me if I'm not asking your questions the way that you wrote it, but we're going to try to touch all of the issues. So, Ambassador, for the first thing, we want to start a little bit with the international arena that surround, obviously, Israel. And we're seeing a diplomatic tsunami against Israel, with leaders supporting recognition of Palestinian states as a reaction to Israel actions, not necessarily coming from the pro-Palestinian aspect. What is your message to leaders like Macron from France, Sturmer from the UK, Carney from Canada, who some of them are the closest friends for the United States, who has announced that their countries will recognize the Palestinian state?
They're making a huge mistake. They're making a huge mistake philosophically because they're not thinking they're doing it. I know they don't intend this, but they're really empowering and emboldening Hamas. In the middle of a war, you don't criticize your best friend for how he is conducting the war against those who sought to annihilate him. Israel is the country that was attacked. It wasn't the country that did the attacking. Israel isn't holding anyone hostage, but Hamas is holding already still 50 people, but they kidnapped 250 and they've murdered a bunch of them. They've tortured some that have remained alive, and they've even kept the remains of those that are deceased, kept those remains from getting back to their families for the respectful, proper burial. It's disgraceful. And the video that we saw recently was of the emaciated hostages who were being forced to dig their own graves. This is appalling. Let's never forget what happened on October the 7th. It was not an attack against the nation of Israel and its military. It was a massacre of citizens, civilians, innocent children, women, sometimes pregnant women, elderly people, and the worst of all, in the massacre and mutilation of the victims. The people who did it were actually proud of what they were doing. They videotaped themselves committing these atrocities and boasted of it. And that's, to me, the most unspeakable horror of it all. I would say to France and to England and all these countries, for heaven's sakes, put the pressure not on Israel, put the pressure on Hamas. Demand that all the hostages be released at once. Do what the Arab League did, for heaven's sakes. Call for the disarmament of Hamas and the release of all the hostages unconditionally. That's what should be the only message that the world is giving right now. And it's not a message lecturing Israel on feeding all the people who tried to kill them. It's a message to say to Hamas, end this and end it now.
Thank you, Ambassador. Speaking of Hamas and the hostages, first of all, we think obviously, and we've mentioned that your effort and the President Trump effort, and then achievements as well in releasing some hostages, Israeli hostages in the previous deal, and we're hearing on the media about some sort of an advancement in the negotiation for another deal. We understand that Hamas has replied to some sort of an offer. Can you give us a little bit of the insight of what's going on in the negotiation? And are you optimistic about the chances for another deal?
I want to be optimistic, but I'm also aware of who we're dealing with. We're not dealing with a nation state. We're not dealing with honorable people. We're dealing with savages. And these are savages who have done the most horrific things to other human beings. They're not in a mood of trying to act like civilized people. I wish they were. If they were, they would sit down and say, okay, you know what? We're going to give the hostages up. We're going to let them go home to their families, and we will go into exile. And Israel has offered that. Whether or not they are serious about bringing this to a close, all I can do is tell you, I hope so. But what has happened before, even when they say we're thinking very seriously about bringing this to a conclusion, making a deal, then they always add one or more things that are completely unacceptable, bring those to the table, and it all starts over again. So I'm not going to give up. I'm always going to be optimistic. It's my nature. But I'm also realistic. And I understand that Hamas is not like dealing with an honorable opponent. These are not people that come to the table because they are reasonable. They're just not.
Thank you. So speaking of Hamas, we have a couple of questions regarding the war in Gaza, and some even we've discussed about like what can bring Hamas to some sort of agreeing to a full deal or a partial deal in anything. We have a couple of questions regarding the Israeli government goal of defeating Hamas, which I think is everyone will agree that is one of the primary and most important goals in the war. How do you see the war in Gaza eventually ends? Like in your view, what is the day after looks is going to look like in Gaza? And especially like what are your opinions or your views on the recent Israeli cabinet decision of expanding the war to Gaza City? We also have a question regarding the deadline, whether the U.S. administration has some sort of a deadline, because we know that defeating Hamas is a very complex goal that might take a while. So to understand the U.S. administration position on that.
Well, the president's been very clear. He said Hamas has no future in Gaza, and they're not going to be able to stay and to have any leadership role. So I represent the president and the U.S. That's the position that the president takes. Therefore, it's the position that I take, is that they have no future there. If they think that they're going to stay, if they think they're going to have a role in governing the people of Gaza in the future, the president's made it clear they're not. They ought to listen to him. The people of Iran didn't listen to him very well when he told them they weren't going to have a nuclear weapon and they weren't going to enrich in uranium. And they didn't believe him. And he made believers out of them when the B-2s went over on a Saturday night. What I would say is that leaving Hamas in Gaza, letting them have some future there, would be like leaving the Nazis in Germany after World War II, which everyone would say, well, that's insane. You can't do that. It would be absurd. It would be equally absurd to let Hamas claim some form of victory in all of this, because to do so means you'll have another October 7th and then another, and there will be more hostages and more families will have to go through the extraordinary an excruciating pain of not knowing whether their loved ones are alive or dead and not knowing when they'll ever get them back. Um, there are a lot of opinions on how this could and should end, and I don't know that anybody can say they know exactly the right way. But the one thing we can agree on, whether you agree in a strong military action in Gaza City, or you agree in a 60-day ceasefire with the hostages dribbling out 4, 5, 10 at a time, regardless of that, I would hope that we all agree that Hamas can't win, they can't stay, they must disarm, and that the future of Gaza will be very different than its past. And one of the things that I heard when I was in Gaza talking to people who live there, the most extraordinary thing that I came away with was their attitude about Hamas was these people are horrible. And everyone I visited with had had a family member murdered by someone in Hamas. But here's the other part they said. They want nothing to do in the future with the PA, the PLO, or Fatah. So if the Palestinian Authority thinks that they're going to go back in and take control and govern Hamas or Gaza, I can assure you the people of Gaza will not be in favor of that. So it's going to be a very different future, and we don't know exactly what it looks like or where it's going. I think we take it step at a time, and the first step, get the hostages home, get Hamas out of there.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'm gonna switch to another arena. It's been more than 2 months already since the impressive U.S. strike on the Fordow in Iran. I'm guessing that after 2 months, we have a little bit more of intelligence about what's going on and how the effect of the strike was. Can you share with us a little bit about our recent knowledge?
I think the president was right when he said we obliterated their nuclear capacity. Of course, as you know, most of their scientists were killed in the very first few seconds of the beginning of the war. That set them back, even if we hadn't have taken down a good bit of the infrastructure of their nuclear program. But the MOP bombs, the very powerful bombs that were dropped by the B-2s, hit their targets directly and accurately. And the result was devastating impact on the nuclear sites that they were developing. That's not to say that Iran doesn't still have nuclear aspirations. You would think that they would give those up in light of what happened to them. I grew up in the South, as you know, down in Arkansas. We have a saying down the South that there is no education in the second kick of a mule. Unfortunately, Iran doesn't seem to understand that. So they're still talking about how to get nuclear capacity. And I would say to them, there's no education in the second kick of a mule. You've been kicked once. You really don't want to go through it again. But if it has to be, it will be.
Thank you, Ambassador. I know you're pressed with time, so I'm going to ask the last question for tonight. This is actually an internal question regarding the U.S. We're hearing a couple of criticism in the U.S. as well about what's going on in Gaza, both obviously in media, on the protests on the streets, and especially universities. How do we educate, convince, provide the information to others in the U.S. to address these type of things?
Well, we have to keep turning the lights on and letting people hear the truth. When I hear people say, well, Israel is a genocidal nation, I push back immediately and I say, let me tell you something. If Israel is trying to commit genocide, they're really, really bad at it. They could have committed genocide in Gaza on October the 8th. And if anyone doesn't think they have the military capacity to wipe Gaza completely out, then they didn't pay attention what happened in Iran in the 12-day war. It's not a genocidal nation, nor is it an apartheid nation. It's not a nation in which people don't have rights. I ask people sometimes who are really ignorant about Israel, are you aware that there are Arabs in the Knesset? No, there's not. Yes, there is. Are you aware that there are Arabs in the Israeli Supreme Court and that an Arab judge sentenced a sitting president and a prime minister to prison? Oh, no, that didn't happen. Yes, it actually did. Are you aware that Arabs in Jews work side by side at Hadassah Medical Center and hospitals and factories and businesses all over the land of Israel. And they get along. Surely not. I thought it was apartheid. Well, somebody forgot to tell the people of Israel that they're an apartheid nation. So they live in a democracy where people not only can elect their government, but they can disagree with it and not be afraid of getting shot and never seeing another breakfast. This is an extraordinary country. It is amazing what has happened in this tiny little sliver of real estate. More Nobel Science Prize winners than any country on earth, disproportionate to its small population of 9.5 million people. It has a tiny landmass. Muslim countries have 644 times the amount of land Israel does. And yet it is a superpower and just recently defeated a country that was 10 times its size. So it is the David in a world of Goliaths. And people ought to understand, I wouldn't mess with Israel. And I'm proud the U.S. stands with Israel because I do believe the Bible when it says, God will bless those who bless Israel, and he will curse those who curse Israel. I want to be blessed. I want my country to be blessed. And so individually, and as the United States, proud to say we stand with Israel.
Thank you, Ambassador. These are the perfect words to finish our session. So thank you so much for joining us. I think it was one of the most fascinating webinar we've ever had here at the American Jewish Congress. And I want to thank you again for your time.